my wedding day, my mom texted, "Don't expect anyone to come." Then I saw the group photo, all of them on a private beach in Maui. Caption, "Finally together." I just sent one text, perfect timing, that night. I pulled my name off the business charter, froze every corporate expense account. A week later, my dad was outside my condo, red-faced and pounding on the door. I opened it, sipped my coffee, and said, at this point, I don't even know what to call them. Family, that word doesn't fit anymore. You don't go someone's wedding and still get to wear that title. You don't fly to a private beach, toast champagne in the sun, and pose for a group photo on the same day your only son says his vows and still call that love. I don't know what they are to me now, but they're not family. That ended the moment I saw the photo. Let me rewind. The morning of my wedding, I was standing in the small dressing room at our venue, this rustic little lodge on the coast. Nothing fancy, but peaceful. I was adjusting my cufflinks when I got a text from my mother. "Don't expect anyone to show. Best of luck." No punctuation, no context, just those words. I stared at the screen for a solid minute, thinking it had to be a mistake. I actually checked the sender like I didn't recognize her number. I even turned off my phone and turned it back on, like maybe I'd read it wrong. But no, that was it. That was my send-off from the people who raised me. Natalie was down the hall getting ready. She had no idea. She thought they'd be arriving late. I never told her the full truth about how they reacted to her. When we got engaged, my mom called her scrappy, and my dad said she wasn't a strategic match. I didn't even know people talked like that outside of arranged marriages or corporate boardrooms. They didn't like that her family wasn't wealthy, that her dad drove a truck and her mom worked retail, that she came from a small town. They smiled in public and called her names behind closed doors. But I thought maybe deep down they'd come around. They didn't. I kept checking the entrance as the ceremony started. The seats reserved for my side of the family stayed empty, every single one, not even a text from my sister. The same sister who once told me I saved her life during her divorce. She couldn't be bothered to send an excuse. But Natalie, God, she looked beautiful. She smiled like she had the whole world figured out. I focused on her. I didn't let them ruin it, at least not visibly. We got through the vows, we kissed. Everyone cheered. The reception was small but joyful. Her family danced for hours. Our college friends toasted us with cheap champagne and corny stories. Nobody asked about my side of the aisle. Maybe they figured something came up. Later that night, I stepped outside to grab a beer from the cooler and get a little air. That's when I saw it. The post. My cousin, who apparently never figured out how privacy settings work, uploaded a picture that hit harder than anything my family had ever said to my face. There they all were, standing on a private beach in Maui. Waves behind them. Sunglasses, sundresses, open collars, my parents, my sister and her husband, 2 aunts, even my dad's business partner who's not even blood. Glasses raised, arms around each other. Tan and glowing, it looked like a damn catalog photo. The caption read, "Finally together, love wins." Hashtag family forever. They didn't just skip my wedding. They orchestrated a parallel celebration, a family event without me. They waited until my exact wedding day to do it. Then posted it like they wanted me to see it, like it was some kind of message. I walked back inside, kissed Natalie on the cheek, and danced until midnight. Then I went quiet. The following Monday, I showed up to the office like nothing happened. The receptionist said good morning. I smiled, walked straight into my office. My name was still on the charter. I still had all the admin keys. I still controlled the corporate cards, the joint expenses, the assets I helped build from the ground up with my dad. By noon, I filed the paperwork to remove myself from the business entity. By 4, I froze every corporate expense account tied to the family. Phones, gas, flights, hotels, all of it. I made sure it would hit the midweek right as they were wrapping up their trip. The group chat started lighting up like a fire alarm by early evening. My dad texted first, then my sister. Then the call started. I ignored everyone. I was sitting on the couch with my wife eating leftover cake. Finally, I sent one message back, perfect timing. Then I turned my phone off and opened a bottle of wine. There was nothing left to say, a week of silence. That's all it took for them to crack, after the photo, after the text, after the wedding. After I froze the expense accounts and erased myself from the business we spent 10 years building together, I didn't pick up a single call. Not one reply to the frantic messages piling up in my inbox. Not even when my sister texted asking if I'd gone insane. I just watched quietly from the outside as the cracks started to show. Natalie noticed something had shifted, but she didn't ask. She knew enough to know that if I hadn't said anything yet, it wasn't ready to be spoken. We were still settling into married life. Small routines. Coffee in the morning, cooking together at night. She picked up a freelance gig and filled the space in the apartment with energy I didn't realize I'd been missing all these years. We were happy, tired but happy. Then came the knock. It was around 6:50 in the morning, still hazy outside, and I was in the kitchen in a t-shirt and boxers, drinking my first cup of coffee when the pounding started. Sharp, loud, like someone wanted the door off its hinges. I didn't have to guess. I already knew who it was. When I opened the door, there he was. My father, red-faced, wearing his usual stiff shirt and designer slacks, like dressing for a board meeting would somehow give him control. His vacation tint still fresh, the Maui sun clinging to his skin like a joke. I wasn't in on. He didn't ask to come in, didn't ask how I was, didn't say a word before launching straight into it. He shouted about how I'd humiliated him, sabotaged the family, how freezing the accounts mid-trip left them stuck and scrambling. They had to cover expenses with personal cards, he said. My sister and her husband had just secured a second property, expecting the money to keep flowing. I had no right, he claimed. I detonated the entire structure. I just stood there sipping coffee, and when he finally paused to catch his breath, I answered, steady and quiet. I gave you every chance. You made your decision, something shifted. The anger turned sour. He accused me of overreacting, being dramatic, insisted that missing one event shouldn't tear a family apart. He kept calling it a misunderstanding, as if none of it had been deliberate, as if actions didn't come with fallout. He said I owed him because he built the business, because he gave me opportunities, because without him, I was nothing. That's when it hit me. We were never speaking the same language that I told him the charter changes were permanent. My shares were now under holding control. If they wanted the company whole, they could buy it back at full market value up front. I told him the cards were done, the perks frozen, sale plans, car leases, travel accounts, everything that he asked what I expected them to do. I said, figure it out, and closed the door that he banged on it, shouting threats I'd heard versions of before. I didn't open it. I sat back down, finished my coffee, and looked through wedding photos. None of them featured my family, but every single one showed happiness. Later, I called my attorney and sealed off everything, put a firewall between me and anything they had access to, revoked permissions, closed shared accounts, canceled the auto pay for the second house, the one my sister just moved into, using my name to lock in the loan. Not anymore that they'd lived off me for years, without even noticing. They got used to things just appearing, vacations, bailouts, silent investments. I'd been the one quietly keeping the engine running while they posted beach photos and gossiped about my wife not fitting in. Now the engine was off and they were feeling the slow grind of it stopping. It began small, a few bounce payments. The company lease car got flagged, dealership called my number out of habit. Then a vendor emailed about a past due invoice. Then late rent on the office space that I didn't say a word. Just watched WI the second week, the panic started showing. My sister asking in the group chat if someone could pay the lake house utilities. My dad replying with half promises. My aunt's card got declined trying to book a trip. My cousin asked if the company still handled his insurance. Still no apology, not one, just confusion and entitlement, like I'd disappeared for no reason. Like I hadn't spent 10 years managing the financial mess they never understood. I built the structures they relied on, tax shelters. Trusts, pipelines, they never asked how, never cared. Then the mortgage hit. My sister and her husband had just moved into a flashy new house in the suburbs. 3 bathrooms, manicured lawn. A year ago, back when things were different, I'd quietly co-signed. She never asked. She didn't have to, but now, that safety net is gone for all of them. She cried about not getting approved, and I stepped in. It felt right at the time. But once I locked the accounts and her income got flagged, the loan unraveled. They missed the deposit window and I got the notice. My name was still legally on the contract. The loan officer asked if I still planned to back it. I said not anymore. 3 days later, my sister called. No congratulations, no apology, just you can't do this to us. I let it ring out and blocked the number. That night, Natalie and I ate dinner on the couch. She didn't know all of it. I didn't think she needed to. What mattered was we were solid, building something real. A week later, our old accountant called, said the quarterly reports were a mess, asked if I'd really pulled all access. I said yes. He was quiet, then said I wondered when you'd stop carrying them. He was right. 3 weeks after the wedding, the silence shifted. Still no remorse, just quiet strategy. I was up late, finalizing paperwork for a startup I'd invested in without telling my father when I got an email from one of his old business contacts asking to meet and preserve the legacy. I didn't respond. 2 days later, a law firm emailed a document. Proposal for reintegration of partnership and brand stabilization. Buried at the end was a clause about realignment of personal affiliations. It didn't name Natalie, but it didn't have to. I closed the laptop. The next night, Natalie and I came home from dinner to find my mother waiting outside. No suitcase, no umbrella, just standing there. She said she came alone, that things had gone too far and someone needed to be the adult. I told her she wasn't here to fix anything, just to negotiate. Then she said calmly, "I think deep down you know she's not part of the future we built." Natalie said nothing. She didn't have to. I looked my mother in the eye and said, "You made that future without me the second you got off the plane in Maui." Then I took Natalie's hand and walked past her. Later that night, I got another email, subject line urgent. Intent to sue for breach of fiduciary duty. That's when I knew they were ready to fight. And I realized I was too. When the envelope arrived, I didn't feel much. It accused me of sabotage, interference, reputational harm, legal nonsense. I handed it to my attorney, Lena. She didn't flinch, just stared at it in silence. The kind that says everything. After scanning the first page, Lena looked up and said, "They're trying to box you in before they collapse." I nodded. "Then let them collapse." She got to work. What they never understood was while they were flying first class and playing CEO, I kept the foundation steady. I had every record. Expenses, emails, board calls, even audio. I didn't need threats, just a few quiet moves. I warned our logistics partner, backed out of the HQ lease guarantee, and sold my last shares in the satellite entity. The collapse started on its own. Then came the HR tip. My sister had applied for a job, claiming she was managing director of our company for 4 years, using my name as a reference. I sent one message, "Don't ever use my name again." No reply. Her LinkedIn vanished hours later. I wasn't angry, I was done. Let gravity take what it would by spring. The business quietly folded. No bankruptcy, no headlines. Just silence. Natalie and I had moved, new place, brighter windows, a kitchen she loved. Life got quieter, clearer. The lawsuit fizzled. Lena dismantled it with ease, no apology, just retreat. One last note came from my father. A letter full of excuses and selective nostalgia. Ending with, "We were right to protect the family from outsiders." Even after all that, he still saw Natalie as a threat. I tossed the letter and never looked back. That summer, Natalie and I took a road trip. No plans, no pressure, just us. One night by a lake, she asked if I'd ever talk to them again. I said they already said goodbye. They just didn't realize it. Almost a year passed. Then an email from Jeremy Heller, a trust lawyer. He represented a hidden contingency from my grandfather. The one person on my dad's side who ever truly saw me. A trust frozen until I turned 35. The condition. No ties to the family business. I had fulfilled it. Within a week it was confirmed, not just money, properties, stocks, even a warehouse full of artwork I didn't know existed. And it was a typed note from my grandfather. "If they ever choose themselves over you, walk away and don't turn back. I'll be waiting on the other side." Natalie cried when I told her, not for the inheritance, but because, for once, someone from my family chose us. Now we're building something new, not out of legacy or revenge, but from the values they never understood: quiet loyalty, real love, and the strength to walk away.